Hi. This is Kyle Scarlett with Draft Stack, the Draft Stack. I'm here with Jordan and Jacob. What's going on, guys?
What's up?
So we're gonna talk sleepers or underrated prospects in this particular draft. Um, I think there's quite a few that people are probably overlooking. Now, how asleep people are going to be after some of these returns to college from some of these
Oh,
players.
I mean, it's fully tearing apart this second round. It's gone a lot thinner. Like the
Yeah.
amount of draftable guys have gone from maybe I thought originally there was about 65 draftable guys. It's definitely dropped by at least 10. No, we had some
Agreed.
big decisions the past 24 hours. Tahad just went back, which is he was only going back if he was getting a first round promise. Milos Uzan was a big sleeper for me, and he went back. Alex Condon. So it's definitely making this draft class a lot thinner, but it's also paving the way for some of these guys that we're going to talk about right now to kind of shine through and kind of be the new like diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so to me, I actually would I'd like for you to go ahead and go first on your first
Yeah.
guy. Who do you think who's a big sleeper?
I'm gonna go with Sion James from Duke. I've been a big fan of him his entire collegiate career. For one, he's just a tight. I love scrappy to like combo guards, and he obviously fits that. He's a big hustle guy. When I watch him play, he seems to maximize what he does on the court, and like in every aspect. I think that he's extremely talented off ball. I think he's a very smart cutter. I think that a skill that goes on, it's pretty underrated for a lot of guards nowadays is being able to control the dunker spot. You see guys like Drew Holiday, TJ McConnell, they've got Alex Caruso even kind of master this ability. And I feel like he kind of can fit that mold of doing that. We saw that a couple times at Duke. Also, he's just athletically a gifted player. He's very strong, sturdy. He's what is he like? I think he's 6'3",
Mhm.
definitely well over 200 pounds. He's got a very quick first step. He does apply good rim pressure. Obviously, the big question for him is his outside shooting. I mean, he definitely has shot a ton better since his since he was a freshman at Tulane. His shooting has actually increased a lot. Um, but I think overall he just he had elite efficiency this past year as Duke's starting guard. He served his role extremely well. Yeah.
Cool. And
Yeah.
I thought his defensive presence is one of the biggest things that stood out, both during the tourney and then also during the combine. He just was everywhere. High, active hands, did quite a bit without fouling, which is huge. Especially on the next level with guys who can, you know, create fouls as part of their skill set. So I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons he's a sleeper and he'll likely go up. Um, Jordan, who did you have as a underrated prospect or sleeper for you?
So can I say something on Scion before we move on?
Absolutely, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have him at uh 65, but he's in my 51 through 65 tier. Like I do think he's very draftable. I could see a world where he drops out of the draft, but as more people keep dropping out of the draft, like even while we're talking, people are dropping out. So maybe
Wait, I,
he'll
I
move up.
I do think that he was a 5-year guy. So I think that
Yeah.
he's done.
Well, I'm talking about he would move up the board
Oh, okay,
as
okay.
more other
Okay,
people are
yeah, I thought you
dropping
said
out.
he was
Yeah.
dropping out. That was my bad.
No. I view him as like Tony Schnell, but I mean that like in a good way, like not like, oh, he's just not going to have an impact. Like, he does a little bit of everything, but sometimes it doesn't show up in the box score. So I actually really like him. And again, as other people are dropping out, I could see him rise up the board a little bit.
And then
Cool.
one,
So
I do want to add one more thing about Sian. I think that he's one of the best screen navigators in this class as a point of attack guy.
yeah.
When he's whether it's going over or under screens or even just straight out bulldozing the screener, he's one of the best guards at doing that. And it's obviously extremely valuable skill, especially when NBA offenses are so heavy, really relying on pick and rolls.
Right.
So I think that's like a very micro skill that he has an upper advantage on a lot of these other guards.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, as far as for me, I'm going to start from the bottom of my board and like go up with mine. But I have Grant Nelson, who, as a big from Alabama, 6'10", does a whole lot of different things. I kind of have comped him to Dario Saric, and my question with him is basically, how much worse than Danny Wolf and Derek Queen is he? Because if you're wanting that kind of a big who is the skilled, more 4 than 5, doesn't really protect the rim as much as an actual 5, but still offers some rim protection. I kind of think I like Grant, especially for the price. If you want to be able to put him, on a 2-way or on that non-guaranteed contract, if you give him a full contract, like I think I like betting on him more than Wolf. I think I like Queen more than I would give Queen a guaranteed contract. Like I think Queen is a lottery pick. But if I'm the price of Wolf for the price of Grant Nelson, I actually think I like the price of Grant Nelson better. So that's why I think he's a good sleeper.
Muted. Sorry. Is that because of the athletic aspect in difference? I think not that they're not both athletic, but they're athletic in different ways. I think Grant is a bigger vertical. He has better vertical spacing. Just gets off the floor really quick. I do think also I think he's better defensively overall. Obviously,
Probably.
there's some give there. You could debate that there's not much of a margin, but I would say that Grant probably plays a better role defensively. And that was kind of his role, was hustling, right? Like just getting put back, rebounding the ball, making energy plays, getting stops at the rim. Underrated kind of rim protector. That wasn't necessarily his role per se, but he did some of it. And some of it was shown during the tourney. So yeah.
So I still have Wolf 24 spots higher than Grant. Like I do think that his offense is just more valuable than Grant Nelson's. But I do think that if I'm having to pay somebody and I'm looking at, maybe it might be if I really think that role is going to help my team, maybe I try, if I have 2 picks, and I have a second round and a first round pick. With my first round pick, I might go somebody else and then take Grant in the second round, just for a value prospect. But I don't know that for sure. Like because Danny Wolf to me he's a much better player overall. He's got so many other ways that his offense works better than Grant's offense, and so I do think that the passing really does set them apart. The comps that I have for Grant Nelson is a poor man's Dario Saric, and then Danny Wolf is Boris Diaw. So obviously you'd rather have Boris Diaw than Dario Saric. So yeah,
I can agree with that for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And didn't Grant Nelson have like the fastest was it agility shuffle all time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do think that Grant is probably a better defender than Wolf, but I think Wolf's offense
100%.
is so much better. Is just so much better than Grant's that I think you still lean Wolf.
Yeah, no, I do think that my one thing with Grant Nelson is I don't know how he's going to fit in the NBA offense entirely. I don't think that he has the on-ball.
He's kind of a tweener.
Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah, we know he's gonna be a guy that's gonna dive to the rim. He's gonna play the hustle plays, like you said. He's a big time hustler. He's a great help defender, like we mentioned. So that, but outside of that, I just don't know what his exact role is gonna be.
Exactly. So, but he's definitely someone I would take a risk on in the second round for sure.
Yeah,
I agree with that. That's what you're doing in the second round, right? If you've made your selection in the first round and you kind of have your guy, you could take a flyer out on a Grant Nelson, some of the other guys that are probably going to be in the second round, maybe the first round, depending on how things work and how the board kind of falls.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go now. For me to start, Ben Henshaw is my sleeper. I haven't heard much noise about him. But between combine and then kind of watching some tape on him, I think his shooting is what's likely going to vault him up, and not so much just the shooting, but his ability to get his shot off. I do think there's room for growth there, and that's why he's a prospect. But I do think between that, I don't think he's a high risk pick, in my opinion, from what I can tell. I think you're going to get, a more benefit than you are detractors. I think he's coachable, so that's another reason. He's played pro, so that's another big, part of it. And granted, the Euro game is a little bit different than what it is here in the NBA, but I think some of that may prep him as far as accelerating his development, as far as getting used to offenses and defenses pro wise. Also, he's his athleticism is kind of understated, but watching him during the combine recently, I thought he kind of showcased his ability to be to use his body well and just to get to spots. And actually, he's not, I think one of the most underrated skills he has is he's pretty decent on defense. Now, am I saying he's a world-breaking defender? No. But I do think as far as a team defender, he plays respectable team defense. He can stay with his man. And then I would say that one of maybe the things is he's versatile. He has a versatility to his game. What that looks like on an NBA level is to be seen, but I do think, I haven't heard as much noise about him. And maybe that's because of the type of draft this is. There's a lot of wings in this draft. And so maybe that's why he's being slept on. But I just think he has a lot to give to a team. So I don't know where he'll fall with guys kind of moving in and out. Some are going back to school. Some are staying. Maybe his, you can always use shooting. And I think that's one of the things that might keep, kind of up him out of the second round, which I think he was going to be a late second round or early second round pick, just depending on who got picked ahead. But with so many guys kind of moving back, I think this leaves the door open. And I'm not sure I've said this before. It leaves the door open for some international guys to move up boards. They got to showcase their skills at the combine. I think he did some as well. So I'm intrigued to see where he falls. To me, the board is wide open for him. If scouts have been doing the job well, I think they'll notice he's pretty complete player. I think there's I do think there's room for growth. However, just leaving a pro game to go pro again, to me, gives him kind of like an advantage as far as being pro ready. So that's one of my favorites.
So I have been as my first prospect outside of like a draft grade on, so I have him at 66. And I just think he needs one more year overseas. So if you're drafting him to stash him, I like that pick personally. So it's not that I don't like him. It's just like, I think he's a couple of years away from actually being an NBA level. As a Mavs fan, the name that comes to mind, which is it is kind of dumb because they're both Australian, but he reminds me of Ryan Broekhoff. And because I do think the shooting is real. And as someone who is a Mavs fan, I loved Ryan from Accounting. We thought he was awesome. So I'm actually pretty happy if that's an outcome that he has. I don't think he's going to be like a starter for an NBA team or anything, but I do think that there is definitely an NBA role that he can play. So I like it.
I mean, yeah, the big thing with him is just he's a wing shooter at size, and we know how coveted that archetype is in the NBA. There's no doubt in my mind that he's gonna go within I could totally see him going within the 45 to the end of the second round range. I mean, he's also just he doesn't do anything. I don't think he's not obviously the most athletic guy like you covered, Kyle, but he just doesn't really do anything that's that's really bad to me. I think he just has.
There's not any red flags.
Yeah, he just has a kind of a great feel for the game. I think he moves. I know he's not the fastest, not the most explosive, but he does move within his own pace. He's a very composed ball handler as well. So I feel there's definitely a role he can carve out for a team. But yeah, he's a guy that's on my. I think he's going to get drafted. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he gets drafted, especially because there's not very many stash options, and he's a great like if someone wants to stash someone, like I would be very high on stashing him.
Yeah, then like in my eyes, it's like, all right, this kid has such a good feel for the game already. What is he looking like in 2 years when has way more pro touches? He's in NBA locker rooms getting NBA advice with NBA coaches. Like this is a guy that can definitely be a real legit player on an NBA team eventually.
Mhm.
But again, I think what we have to see is if he improves upon this stuff and if there's really anything that really makes him stand out to an extent.
And I think that's maybe the knock, right? Is he doesn't do anything spectacular either, right? And so with draft prospects, most guys are looking for someone who does A or B spectacular, or they do a multitude of things down to like CD3 or whatever, as much as possible. I do think maybe that's probably the knock on some of the prospects we're going to talk about is there's a neutrality to their game. Not that it isn't good, not that it isn't like they don't make mistakes and things of that nature, but teams want somebody who bridges one way or the other. If they're not really good, you stash them, right? That's an option. You pick them and then you put them on the G League to kind of get minutes and see how they develop. But with these guys, there's a very like middle ground, like how good can this guy be and how much can they give us as it pertains to a skill level? How fast can they develop? How much can they contribute to a team?
And if there was that certainty, they wouldn't be sleepers like that. We wouldn't be talking about this. So yeah.
Jacob, what's your second, man?
I'm gonna keep it within Duke right now, even though I hate that because I am a huge Syracuse fan. I just despise Duke. But Tyrese Proctor has always been a guy that I've somewhat believed in, even before he was at Duke. It's really been honestly crazy to watch how he's changed as a player. Like originally when I first scouted him, I thought that this guy is a mini Tyrese Halliburton. I thought he had incredible playmaking chops. I thought he was a great jumbo-sized guard. But his role has completely shifted since he's been at Duke. He's now more of like he plays great on the perimeter. He has a great high IQ for the game. He's still a good passer. He's not the passer we thought he would be, but ultimately he is an unbelievable off-ball threat. He's a great catch and shoot guy. I'm pretty sure he had an amazing catch and shooting year. I think that he comes across screens pretty well off ball. I think obviously he's not the most athletic guy. That's probably what made him not that elite type floor general and on ball presence. But I do think that he does play composed and knows how to play within himself in the game. I think he fits a lot of teams because who wouldn't want a 6'5" guard that can shoot the ball and has just a natural feel for the game. I think defensively, he's obviously a great team defender. I think that the question becomes, okay, he has the size, he has the IQ. Is he going to be athletic enough to stick with these other guys and or is he just going to end up being a target on pick and rolls and stuff like that?
Yeah, I agree.
And
go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, well, I mean, the story you told of him starting off as this on-ball guy and moving also reminds me of another Australian who played for the Mavs. So I hate to you keep doing this as my comps for him, but this is Dante Exum. He was projected to be this this jumbo creator point guard who was supposed to be have the best vision and great handling and just totally blowing people out of the water. And then he didn't do that. So he reinvented his game so that he can still use all that high IQ stuff, but fit into a team role and a team, need much better. And so to me, he is Dante Exum, which I love Exum. If Exum could stay healthy, he's one of the best role players in the league if he can stay healthy. And so Proctor, I have him 45 right now, which is just right under my first round grades. Because I have 38 first rounders, or people who are graded at first round. So I just really think that Proctor's solid. I think any team, he fits in any team. And that's why I'm kind of I don't know if it's the fact that some people can't get the idea of him being the jumbo, like everything creator out of their mind, and so they don't realize what he's become now. I'm not very sure why he's so low on boards, because I've seen him even undrafted on a few boards and stuff, and so I don't understand that.
I mean, my confusion for that is defensively. And you guys are gonna hear me talk about defense so much, but defensively, to me, it's one of those things where can his lateral quickness, to your point, Jake, can his lateral quickness be quick enough to stay in front of guys? I do think he has the size to do it. It's just a matter of figuring out. And some of that is, I guess, the thing with sleepers. How acclimated can you get to defense and offense in the NBA? You have to move so fast. You have to be ready to counter. I think especially with the league leaning offense more. Can he be someone who can stay with his men and does not need somebody to come up and hedge for him and stuff like that nature? Like you want your guard to be able to defend the guard they're guarding and really just be a key defender. So if he can show that plus the shooting, if his ceiling is an elite 3-and-D shooter, then you're not mad, because that's, if especially with you,
because he's also going to do the high IQ plays on top of the 3-and-D.
Right. And maybe in the league his facilitating is maybe more of a focal point for him. Maybe that's what a team that he gets drafted needs from him, maybe in the second unit. And just like, hey, we know that you have this ability. Can you make reads? How fast can you make those reads for us? Hey, you make those reads, you relocate, there's going to be a jumper open for you. Those are the things that I think are really just going to impact how his career looks long term. But I think he's a sleeper just because on a team with so many guys who I think would be slated ahead of him anyway, you have, you got Mawa, you have the number one pick,
Cooper,
Flag.
You have Khan.
There's so many,
Khan came out of nowhere and kind of took over his role.
Right. So you got all these guys who do some of the things, that Tyrese does. You're gonna in college, especially, your role is going to shrink because they need from you. And so I think that's maybe why he's so slept on. Primarily what I saw from him in the tourney is jump shooting, right? Like that was kind of his role. Hey, we need you to space the floor.
First 2 rounds, he was just on fire. He had unbelievable games. Like that was the best shooting he had of his entire career, I think. Just like from a really relocating standpoint, he didn't stop moving. I mean, it was unbelievable.
And that to me, especially, I'm going back to it, especially with guys coming off the board to go back to school, his conditioning to do so is probably another thing that might move him up the board, because the ability, most people don't understand what a movement shooter means. It means you're supposed to be constantly trying to find ways to leverage your shooting. So if he can do that at the NBA level for a team on a consistent basis, I think the sky's the limit for him. So,
well, yeah, and not to bring it back to the Mavs again, but you're talking about a movement shooter. There's levels to movement shooting too, because like Tim Hardaway Jr. was a movement shooter, and we swapped him out with Klay Thompson. My word, like, not that Tim was bad at the movement, but the constant motion, so if you can get someone who really has the conditioning to move that much, it opens up everything. It's not just spacing, but it also sometimes defenders don't have the mental capacity to follow you as much. And so that's where, because it's like, why are you leaving Klay Thompson open? Oh, because he's never stopped moving. That's why. Like, he's just, you can't keep following him. And so, yeah, that's a big
Jordan, what was your second sleeper?
Okay, so this one is kind of more so, I don't know that it's a sleeper as much as I don't know where to put him on the board, and it's Hugo Gonzalez. Like, I have seen him in the lottery. I have seen him in the late second round, and I can understand both. Like, but, he plays for Real Madrid. Real doesn't let him, play is kind of, that's almost unfair to say he plays, because they just don't play young kids very much. And he has not got to showcase his abilities, but he is an insane athlete for, you know, a 6'6" wing to be that good of an athlete. He gets some blocks. He has some nasty chase down blocks. He is great at getting alley-oops. He's great at finishing around the rim. My comp for him had been, because of the offense, had been Rudy Fernandez, because of, you know, he can shoot and he can dunk, but I don't remember Rudy Fernandez being this good at defense. Like, as far as at this age, definitely, I don't remember him being that good at defense. And the free throw indicators make it look like he's going to be a pretty good 3-point shooter. And so I think I'm leaning more towards yes on Hugo. I have him in my group of first round prospects. I have him 31 out of 38 first round grades guys, where I think I'm leaning more into him because of the physical tools. Yes, he's raw, but like Real was the contender, you know. So like, it's not just that they're not like, because European teams don't play young guys very much to begin with, but then also that was, you know, they were supposed to be the team, so it's really hard to break in. Not everybody is Luka, who can actually be the MVP of the EuroLeague at 18. Like, that's just not realistic. So I don't think that makes Hugo a bad prospect, but it does make it makes it very hard to put him in a spot.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think you nailed the head on. I think you nailed that. Like, talking about Hugo, I think you got everything perfect. I think something that he really will strive in is the fact that he is, like, I think he's physically ready. He's a guy that can absorb contact, whether he's on defense or offense. He's not afraid to drive at the rim when someone's in front of him at all. He's just, like, not afraid of contact at all. And if someone's trying to bump him in the post or something, he'll absorb it straight up. So I think it's a pretty valuable skill. My big question with him is just, like, there's times where I'm watching him and I'm like, he's just, like, I feel like he just gets lost in the motions. And I don't know if that's.
And how much of that is being on a team that's as talented as Real, and how much of that is that's his mentality? Because that's where it's going to go with him.
Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's the IQ and that's a part of IQ, is just like staying alert, because things are always moving. Somebody's moving on the court. Someone's cutting here. Like, I think his reactability is something that you touched on, Jordan, with the ability to chase down block, to get stops. He does play with force and energy. And granted, if you're playing on a contender, especially European basketball, your minutes, unless you're extremely elite, you're not going to see as many minutes. And I think that's the sleeping aspect here, is just not enough sample size that says he had enough minutes to be. And granted, I'm not saying that his minutes that he did play weren't productive, but it's not so much that you saw enough to say, he should go in the first round. Now, granted, there are some boards who have him going in the first round just because of what he's showcased, and they're wondering, hey, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but I'm assuming the thought process is, if he's this good in sample sizes, how much better is he with more minutes? Now, to me, the questions lie in, what does that look like on an NBA team conditioning wise? That's my question. If he's played so little minutes, right, what is it that he can give in longer term minutes, especially if they expect, as he improves and shows more and kind of sharpens some of the skill sets that he has, what is it can he give in a longer term period as far as time on the floor? And can he produce those same things at a high level when the game gets late? Some of those things are like really situational, but that will kind of, I think some of that is probably what might have him underrated as a prospect, just not seeing what he can give.
So last year's EuroLeague MVP was Kendrick Nunn, and he averaged 26.9 minutes per game. Like, you don't play one, the games are shorter to begin with than NBA games. And then two, the rotations are larger. So more people play. So you don't get as many minutes. So it's hard to just knock them at minutes. Like, I think Luka only averaged like 30 when he was the EuroLeague MVP. Like, you don't play as many minutes. So it's hard for you to just say minutes is the only reason that you should cut him out. In my
Well, I
opinion.
don't think so. I don't think so, right? Like that's maybe
Right.
my perspective, but I'm assuming the reason he's even dropping to
Mhm.
the second round
Yeah.
is because of minutes played, which again, your the adjustment, and I think maybe I don't want to speak for every scout, but I'm assuming some scouts are like game is shorter. How does that translate, right? So instead
Mhm.
of if I'm correct, it's 40 minutes, right?
I
Not
think so.
48.
I think
So if it's 40 minutes, if Luka played 30, just as an example here, he only rested for 10 minutes during that game on an average, right? So on a team that's a contender, how much more time could he have with more guys playing and just like whose minutes is he taking in a 40-minute game on a contender? It's just difficult to make sense of. So I think it's just a matter of seeing what he can give. I do think possibly, and it really just depends on if he decides to come over. That's another thing that maybe I
that's
think.
true.
Yeah, I feel like he might benefit more playing another year in Europe rather than being in the G
Yeah.
League. Just
Because he only played 8 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Now in the ACB, he played 14. So that's more in the ACB than in EuroLeague. But still, the shooting was not what you want it to be, but the free throws are.
at all.
And so, I just feel like maybe he didn't get enough volume for the shooting to translate. I don't know. I would definitely draft him. I would almost rather stash him in the G League than stash him in Europe again.
Mm.
Because I kind of want him to get those on-ball reps.
Right.
Personally. So I would almost do the G League, which the G League is not good for like developing your fitting into a role, but it is great for working on your on-ball reps. So
You're 100% right.
Agreed. So mine is Janich Niederhauser. Forgive me if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Your guess is as good as mine.
And my thing with him is just size. I think he's just like a massive player, which is, there are a lot of big guys in this draft, but what he does at his size is really what's impressive to me. Now, combine wise, I think he impressed a lot of people, so that might, he may not be as slept on as he was previously. I do think he's a capable passer, especially in the short roll. For his size, again, that's you don't always get playmaking. I do think there are some teams, or a lot of teams in this particular league, who wants playmaking from their big man, whether that's the power forward or the center, and just being able to make reads with the ball so that their guards have time to make moves. I do think his lateral quickness could be a little bit better, just defensively. And maybe if he doesn't, and this is something that I've always felt is about a part of defense. If your lateral quickness isn't that fast, then learn how to use your size better. Just if you're 7 feet tall, you have a decent sized wingspan, there should be ways for you to get to make yourself more imposing on defense. So I think if he just learns how to use his size a little bit better, that defensive aspect is gonna go up. I do think he's got a high basketball IQ, which is why the playmaking works so well. And I do think he's going to likely, to me, board wise, I had him late first, like very late first, and beginning of the second round, just off of and he jumped up to me. I had him at like 42. To me, right now, he's more like 35 to 31. Just
34.
Just because of guys who have gone back, like I thought Conan was going to be staying, but I think that's true. If you're like, hey, we were thinking about drafting a guy with size, playmaking, does some things well, has a decent motor, then this is a good pick here. So,
my comp for him is a taller Daniel Gafford, because like what I didn't realize when we traded for Daniel Gafford was how good of his playmaking he was, because there were times where we just put Gafford at the nail and let other people cut, and just let Gafford kind of run the offense for a little bit. Now, part of that was, we literally didn't have anybody who could dribble anymore this year. But he actually thrived in that role. And he had like multiple games where he had like 6 assists as a big who we think of as just a rim rolling big. And so Yannick to me can do that. But he's taller than Gafford. So you kind of hope, for a better rebounder than Gafford and a better, rim protector, or even, well, Gafford's a great rim protector, but like a better kind of help defender because of his size. But I really like Yannick. I'm not even going to try the last name. But I just think that there's so many things that he brings, and he's an uber athlete for this size. Like, that's something that I think a lot of people, when you look at somebody who's, a 7-footer who, does playmaking and just rolls to the, like, he's a very good athlete for that size. And so I think that I could see him as high as like 25, even higher depending on the team. Because I think when you're looking at the different bigs, he's an easy fit on almost any team.
Agreed.
Just because that role is so needed by everybody in the league. So
yeah,
I can see him really high.
Yeah, this is a classic case of a player who's all right. The reason why he's climbing up boards, I think, is it's a classic case of this guy, what he is doing versus what other guys can do. We already know that he is an unbelievable shot blocker. I think he's extremely athletic. He's very well coordinated. That's something I think gets very lost in it. He's very timely on his jumps and blocking shots. I love that you mentioned the short roll, Kyle, because when I was watching his tape, that was like one of the first things that stood out to me. I think he does have good passing instincts, especially when he off the pick and roll, when he is diving and 2 guys are collapsing on him, finding that out in the corner quickly. And I know you mentioned the lateral quickness. I think that over the year, he did get better at leveraging his length to be a better shot blocker and make up for his lack of foot size. I think obviously the NBA is a completely different level of athleticism and speed. So I could see where the concern is, but I think that he was someone that knows how to adapt and adjust well.
And he has his versatility, right? Like, you want at that size, I think a team is looking for versatility more than anything else. And so it's I'm intrigued to see what his game looks like when he starts to put all of it together and it slows down for him and it's all polished. What does that playmaking look like? What does his defense look like, especially? My questions are shooting. He needs to be able to space the floor a little bit more. I think that efficiency takes his game up another level, and not only a sleeper or underrated prospect, but maybe a steal to whatever team he ends up on long term. So it just depends on how much his development works. Where he lands, in my opinion, really just determines what that's going to look like in a couple years. Jacob, what's your third, man?
Yeah, my last guy is Adou Thiero. We recently just found out that he's going to stay committed to the draft. I know there's a lot of people on draft Twitter that are extremely high on him. I saw Utility Sports has him, Sheldon. He has him at 10, I'm pretty sure. I saw a board the other day that had him at 6. So, I mean, but to me, like on most consensus NBA boards, I see him more towards like the late first to early second. So I'm kind of basing off that when I say sleeper, even though I do know there are people who are absolutely in love with this game. But the appeal for him is just so obvious just because he is such an incredible athlete. I mean, everything you ask for in an athlete, he basically is. Insane vertical pop. He's very strong. Speed, length. His hands are massive. Strong. Yeah. And also, he just plays with a tenacity that, like, when you watch him play, it's like, it's like he has that fire to him. You see that when he goes downhill. He gets up the court so much faster than everyone else. And then he makes sure to punish the rim when he's on a breakaway dunk. I think that also for a wing, he's able to play above the rim particularly well. Like I said, a lot of that is with his athleticism. He's a guy that will get chased down blocks. He's a guy that is not afraid to challenge someone at the rim. His whole thing is how effective is he going to be overall as an offensive threat. Obviously, he's a great cutter, a guy that can slash to the rim, but he's not really the on-ball presence that that other wings in this league are that he'd be trying to get minutes over, which is so valuable. Like he can't be a zero ball handler or a zero shooter. The shooting's a big turnoff, obviously, but he's also like kind of has he improved as a shooter or did he get worse this year? I feel like he might have had like
he improved on volume. He improved on
Yeah.
volume, but let me look it up real quick. I'll look it up, all y'all.
But yeah, just because he's really just not a shooter. Like it might make him unplayable at times because you see a guy who also went to Arkansas, Jordan Walsh, great playmaking chops, great length, good athlete, high IQ, high feel, and he's not getting minutes on NBA floor because he can't shoot the thing or really create his own shot.
So he went down on he doubled his attempts, but he really dropped his percentage, and his percentage was not good to begin with.
28.
He dropped it down to 25 this year, or 26, rounding up this year, and it was 33 his freshman year and 32 the next year. And then free throws is also not great. He was in the high 60s his freshman year and then this year, but he was at 80% last year at Kentucky. So I think there's a little bit of touch there. My comp for him is like a more athletic, taller Lou Dort. Again, he would have to learn to shoot for that to work, but even his offense, like, I don't know if y'all remember Dort at Arizona State, where he was just like, I'm just going to charge every time and they're just not going to call it. That's how Adu was doing in college. He was just like, I'm just going to commit a charge and they can call it or they can't. And he was just always bigger than everybody. So I don't know. I really think that he is awesome. I'm a huge Razorbacks fan. So I live in Arkansas and work in Arkansas when I'm in the States. So it just, to me, I think that he is awesome. But I do think that the people who have him, 6 and 10 and all that stuff are just not looking at the red flags. And the shooting is a red flag. The handle is a red flag. Like there are some major red flags with him. Now, if he can fix those things, that's awesome. But I don't know, to me, that he has the touch around the rim to make me think that he's going to fix the shooting touch either. Like there's just not enough indicators anywhere for me to have confidence that those things are going to get fixed. And I know that there are people who say shooting is the easiest thing to fix in basketball. Absolutely. But we see it all the time where it doesn't get fixed for all these different players, where it never gets fixed. So to me, it's a red flag. So I have him 27. I still think he's a clear first rounder, but I do think that I'm a little worried with some of the red flags.
And that comp, Dort, I thought that's actually really apropos for him. I think he's way more athletic, obviously. Not that Dort isn't athletic, but I think, he's way more.
Just he's a different level. He's also the vertical. Dort doesn't have vertical.
Yeah. That vertical spacing, his ability to get up off the floor. Jacob, I think you touched on the playing. I think he plays the passing lanes pretty decently. And that might keep him on the floor. People will disagree with me, but I think if a prospect can be defensively sound, that keeps them on the floor and it allows a coach to kind of expand the role as they develop. If he can be
look at Dorian Finney-Smith.
Right.
I have never seen a worse shooter than rookie year Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah,
but yet
was not a factor.
He was awesome
there.
So
it's just one of those things. If he can get, you mentioned just if he can fix some of the things that are obviously red flags at the moment. The shooting is puzzling to me, and it is actually
if he can start shooting 32%, I think he gets minutes. Because he's that good at the other stuff. Like if the shooting is just bad and not abysmal, he's going to get minutes.
And truthfully, what I would like, and this is just me, this is Kyle, just as is, I would like if a guy that size is hovering around 35%. Not saying that's great shooting. I'm just saying that hanging around there makes you guardable, right? You give your team an ability to space the floor. And with the way defense is, even with it, the league leading offense, defenses are so intelligently made now. Like the layers of game planning and scheme, you have to be able to stretch the floor. It's just so important.
He also grew an inch. I don't know if we should point that out. He grew an inch this year.
That can change
because he's now a forward. He's now a forward instead of like he was like a more of a wing. He can now play a lot of power forward. I think he's definitely big enough now to play power forward. And so that also drops your need for shooting a little bit. He's just a ton, but yeah.
No, he's just so switchable. I mean, that's his also just like he can go. You can be like, all right, go guard this guard. It's like, okay, yeah, he probably has athletic chops to keep up with him and apply proper pressure. I mean, obviously, I do think
go guard this forward, and he's big enough and strong enough to
he'll
barrel
absorb
through
the
the forward.
Exactly. He does do some things on the defensive side of the ball where I'm like, okay, that you were kind of being a little bit trigger happy there. There's no need to go out and try for a steal or try to pull the chair. But like again, like those are all like growing pains. Like as he gets more accustomed to the NBA, he'll learn not to be as indecisive and make those dumb mistakes. Still, I mean, he's a junior, but I feel like he's on the younger side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was a young junior. I think.
Yeah. So yeah, but like I totally understand people that like are just obsessed with this game because it's like in theory, like
he would be awesome in Miami.
Yeah,
he would be so good in Miami.
I think Miami's focused on getting a playmaking guard because that's probably what they really need the most.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I think that would be a.
But he would be so nasty in Miami.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If he drops to the second round, maybe they get him in the second round. Oh man.
Right, and there's also a part of me that questions whether or not his usage rate does contribute to how inflated his stats looked. He had probably like his usage rate had to be above 25%. I mean, the ball was in his hands.
I think I still have it pulled up. So his usage rate was advanced. Yeah, 25.8. So
what was his offensive rating? I'm just curious.
Offensive rating was. Where is that at? Okay, no. Where's off? Oh wait, no, it's per 100 possessions, right? They don't put it with the other advanced stat. Yeah, his offensive rating was 120.6. So, that's a pretty good actually.
Yeah,
and it was 124.9 last year. But his defensive rating was 99. Dude, yeah, 99.2. So even a low 99.
Wow.
So. Yeah, he was a beast.
I mean, he has the ability. Again, to me, it just depends on where he lands, right? That can really sharpen those other things and fix. And I do think it may take a year for that shooting to adjust, especially with trying to get your shot off against elite defenses. So it's to be seen. It's to be seen. Jordan, what's your third guy?
So from one French-speaking prospect to another. So Thierry's from Mali. So Maxime Renaud is from France. 7'1" center out of Stanford. I'm just going to be completely honest. I don't understand the love that Kalkbrenner gets when Renaud is in the draft. Like, to me, I love what Renaud can do.
Jordan, that just made me so happy. I love that you said that.
He's, again, to use another Mavs comp, he's Rafe LaFrance. He's the shooting big who also plays a little bit of defense. Like, now he's not a good rebounder, which is also where they're kind of, to me, Rafe was not a great rebounder. But he does the shooting and the defense. I really think that he's also he's super smart. Everything you ever hear about him is how much of a genius he is. How he's really not been playing basketball for that long. And he's picked up this much so fast. Like, I don't understand. I have him top 20. I have him 20 on my board. Like, I don't understand the people who don't have him in the first round. Like, I can't follow.
And I think he ends up being first round again.
He might get lottery. I mean, I've heard lottery.
I mean, yeah.
And
I would hope so.
I mean, Rafael Barlow's been like
yeah,
he's been
pushing him.
on right now for a while now. Like he's been like wanting him to be a lottery pick for us. I feel like since last year.
Mhm.
So I do like his game. His interview at the combine when on live television honestly blew me away. I heard that and thought that is a professional NBA player. Definitely just fits the role of it. Definitely knows what it takes. Seems like a guy that's ready to take on the workload. I mean, something that everyone knows that is his relationship with Wembanyama. Obviously, that does have an effect. So seeing him in San Antonio will be pretty cool. But I think the big thing with Ronaldo,
they should draft him at 14. They should.
Oh, yeah, they probably they should. Yeah, I mean,
That'd be great.
there's not a lot of bigs in this league that I think could do what Ronaldo does. Just the way he moves, his footwork is impeccable. I mean, his spin moves and also just as a natural playmaker and just like touch around the rim, like he's just extremely talented offensively.
Yep,
for sure. And I think at his size, his ability to get to the rim is something that I'm impressed with. When I was watching some tape on him, just like you expect the guy to get to the rim, but it's the way in which he does get to the rim that is like the most impressive aspect. Just an interesting use of both vertical and horizontal space, and his ability and touch around the rim. To your point, Jordan, I do think the rebounding has to improve at that size.
Yes,
absolutely. Be able to rebound the ball. And so that to me, among the great things he's going to do or can do in order to, this is just me, and I'm going to harp on defense. I'm a defense first guy. You have to rebound the ball. So I think what's going to carve out his role initially, because I don't think he's going to get the kind of touches early on to dictate an offense, right? So his rebounding, his ability to defend a little bit more, especially with the physicality kind of returning to the game a bit more here, he's going to have to rebound. And rebounding is a physical aspect. It requires you to box out. It requires you for your hips and core to be strong. I hope that he's able to fix that. That maybe is the one thing. And I'm not trying to poke a hole, but that might be the one thing that I'm like, hey, if he can fix this, everything else is just going to fall into place. So I think he's just extremely talented. His IQ is off the charts. I mean, I think if you go to Stanford, your IQ is off the charts.
You're probably smart.
So I'm just intrigued to see where he ends up. This whole board is just going to be completely shuffled, in my opinion. I've been saying it since we did the mock. I can't imagine that it's going to look like what people think it's going to look like. A lot of guys are going to move up.
I think anything after 3, it's going to be wild.
A complete toss up, to be honest with you. And best available will actually be best available. Just like who fits what that particular team wants out of a prospect. And some of it might not even be need based. It might just be like, oh, didn't know this guy was going to be here.
Yeah. There's definitely a clear indication between different tiers this year, which last year that was a complete mess because everyone had just so many questions. You're like, all right, is this guy you just had everything just blurred together. This year there's pretty between tier 3 and 4, it's pretty obvious who those guys are in my eyes.
Yeah.
So my third is Jameer Watkins. Just insanely impressive, 6'7", almost a 7-foot wingspan, just a monster on the defensive end. I think his mid-range was something he showcased at Florida. Averaged a pretty decent amount of points. I think he was hanging around 19, close to 20. I do think that he's going to need to finish at the rim a little bit better, which is crazy to say for a guy this athletic. But I do think he could finish a little bit more in traffic. That could be something that helps. His shooting is something that I think is going to get better. I think he was in the mid-30s, if I'm correct, college-wise. So if he's able to kind of move that up towards the 40s between the defense, man, I think he goes in the first round just because of some of what's taken place. And a guy who's 6'7", can guard, can shoot respectably. There's no way that a team is just going to look and say, I got one of those. No, you want to add more as far as team building is concerned. He's highly switchable as a defender. I'm harping on the defense because the defense is that to me that
It's
elite.
his calling card.
It just is. It's unreal. I mean, if anybody hasn't watched any tape yet, if you just look at the combine and watch what he did defensively to whoever his matchup was, not fair. Absolutely not fair. High motor. He's a durable guy for the most part. I do think his free throw shooting could be a bit better. But I think that's just a rep thing, focusing strictly on the ability to just get the ball at the free throw line. And I think with his physicality, he's going to get to the free throw line based out of his role. Now it's a matter of making those free throws at a higher clip. Pretty good intangibles. He talks, he holds guys accountable, he holds himself accountable from what I can see. I just think he's going to be really, really good. I do think if he can maybe, and this is nitpicking, so forgive me. This is nitpicking, but if he can add a little bit of playmaking to this, then it's a complete package. The shooting, the defense, the ability to just play with force, to play with an active level, and stay kind of high. Kind of knows how to play within himself, and if he can just add playmaking to the things that are already really good to me, steal.
See, and I think he has a little bit of playmaking, in my opinion. It's not like you're not wanting to be a full-on point forward or anything.
No.
But like I do think my comp for him has been JC and Tate from the Rockets. And so I think he has a little bit of playmaking in him, but he's not like a full-on point forward. I also think he might be taller than Tate, because I think Tate's actually like sneaky short for that role.
Tate's like 6'4".
Yeah, and he's like a legit 6'7". So like, I mean, he's up, which Tate plays like he's 6'7", but Watkins is actually 6'7". So there's a lot with him. I think that I like. So I have him as a first rounder. And he's 38 on my board, so I have him in that first round tier. He's the last of the first round guys for me. There's a lot to like about him. So yeah, and just like you said, you can never have too many of those guys on there. Like even the Rockets have Tate, they have Tari Eason, and they just keep wanting more because they all work out. So you just want more of those guys.
I think the knock is his age, right, Jacob? Like that.
He's 23.
Yeah, probably.
He's 23.
Yeah.
He would have been 24 in college if he stayed. So he probably was a 5-year guy. He was at Florida State he transferred. Where did he transfer from to Florida State? I forget where. But I mean, I watched enough of him for the past couple of years. I thought that he was a guy that could have gotten not drafted, but would have definitely gotten a 2-way deal last year. And him coming back tells me that he definitely got a promise in the end of the first round or in the beginning of the second round. Someone told him that we're gonna draft you. We see a role for you, and like you guys all covered it. He's just so role malleable there, and he does so many things that it's like, okay, you could play defense. You're extremely athletic. You got that high enough. I think he's got high enough IQ, but he's just a guy like he's very functional. He can fit a bunch of different schemes.
It's funny because Jordan, I actually my comp for him a little bit was Vassell, actually.
Okay.
Not because they both attended similar schools, but just because of
no, but like body type, like no, like I get it.
They both give. Yeah. Now, granted, I do believe Vassell is a better shooter.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think Vassell.
He's a little longer too. I think.
Yeah, I saw Vassell more as like an off ball, like more of like a fluid off ball threat rather than walk into. I feel like as an off ball threat, yeah, he could shoot. He shot like 35% this year. I think Vassell was light years better, and Watkins will probably score more off cuts if I had to guess.
Yeah.
So I agree. Just because of the vertical.
Vassell has also just like not defended as well as prospect Vassell should have. Like, so I'm not sure what has happened with it, because like he looked like he was going to be the, like wasn't he getting like Sean Marion comps and stuff? Like, I mean, he
He's
was
like
he
textbook 3
looked,
and D.
and then he's been okay. Like, you know, he's not that he's a bad defender, but it was just like, you know, he was supposed to be the dude as a
Agreed.
defender, and so yeah. But as definitely as prospects, I definitely see the comparison.
So those are our sleepers or underrated prospects. Thanks to Jacob and Jordan for hanging out with me and talking some hoops. I'm intrigued to see where all of these guys fall and see how good they're going to be league wise. And I guess as a kind of a closer here, there's nothing wrong with these guys being high level role players. They don't have to be superstars, and I think that's one of the things that makes them underrated is that they can just be a functional like option for a team that just wants stability and to be a decent addition to their team. Whether that's size on defense, the ability to shoot the ball, playmaking, just there's so many ways that the guys that we've covered can really just contribute to teams. And I think long term, a lot of these guys are very low risk, in my opinion. For now, low risk, high reward kind of guys. And some of them are going to be who they are, and they just polish the skills. And some guys take a step where they're like, "Oh, this guy's a star. He has the ability to be more than what we thought he would be projected to be." So, thanks for all of everybody who showed up and watched. We appreciate you guys from the Draft Stack. Peace.